Hello and welcome to my studio. It's so good to be with you again today. As you know, I share once a week about what's been happening, particularly what's been on my studio table. I do have a couple of other things to talk to you about as well. Firstly, about the quilt behind me. I have shared this before in my video series, but I'm sharing it again today because it seems to be quite pertinent in the light of current events. I don't get very political on my channel or on my social media, but this is a very important account in a visual way of my migration history and my husband's. My husband's family migrated from various parts of Europe to Tasmania during the 1800s, including Prussia, England and Ireland and Germany. My parents emigrated twice, once from the Netherlands to Canada after the war and once to Tasmania to reconnect with family when I was still in high school. So it's really an important part of our history and our background and who we are, our experiences, our heritage and so on. And I know there has been some comment about migrants and whether they should be here or not, and whether they contribute to our country or not. And I'm not just talking about Australia, I'm talking about any country in the world. I'm a migrant and I'm not afraid to say so. And I'm very grateful for the opportunities that have come my way during my time here in Tasmania in particular, as I've grown to adulthood and beyond. So it's a visual way of expressing something positive about an issue that has had some negative coverage. And I would just like to say that, in my view, migrants do enrich our experience of culture and of unity as a nation and on a global level. Some of us obviously not interested in trying to find harmony and unity. It's certainly something that I try to focus on, and I know many of you do too. So I'm not going to go into it any further, except to share this quilt with you. If you'd like to read the artist statement that I submitted with this, I will share a link to it under this video. Also, it did win first prize at the State Art Quilt Show this year in the art quilt section. So I feel like I've had my say without having to speak very many words at all. I've been really busy catching up on some stitching over this past week. I've done a lot of stitching on the Coverlet of Comfort, also on the scroll. Neither of them is complete, of course. The Coverlet is a year-long project and the scroll will take me as long as it takes. But I have so enjoyed it and it's just been great fun to work on them. I have seen Kathryn's video for the next stage of the Coverlet and I'm going to tweak that a bit, as I often do, and I'll share that with you in a moment. The other thing that I've done is a little bit more gardening. I planted up some hanging baskets and there are a mixture of white petunia flowers and trailing herbs and a bit of rocket. So partially edible and partially food for the soul, I guess you could say. I've been wanting to do this for quite a while, I want to grow things that I can't actually grow lower down because the wildlife eats it. So hopefully I can harvest some herbs and also some rocket and enjoy the flowers visually. Ian made some hooks for me. Our rafters are sort of rectangular, so he made the hooks out of old fencing wire from the fences that he took down last summer and bent them so that they would hang nicely on the veranda at the front and the back. And I'm just so pleased with how they look. They're also low enough so that I can water them without having to stand on a stool or on a ladder, which is good. Springtime has been a little bit variable, I guess you could say. We've been having frosts again, even though we're supposed to be heading into summer. Partly that's because we live fairly high above sea level, about 1,000 feet above sea level, and partly because the weather is changeable, generally speaking, from what I'm hearing from around the world as well. We have had some lovely warm settled weather, and it looks as though after the frost today it's going to be a beautiful day. We've also had very stormy, windy weather. And someone mentioned when I shared about the hanging baskets on my private Facebook page that she can't plant them, hang them at her place because they would just blow off and end up somewhere else. So I'm hoping that won't happen here. I don't think so, but you never know. Anyway, welcome to my video number 73. And thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy what I've got to share today. One of the things I've been doing over the past few days is reconnecting with my crochet project that I talked about a little while ago, maybe 1 or 2 videos ago. I had started something, but I wasn't enjoying it and I wasn't totally happy with it, so I undid it, and then I waited a little while before I decided what to do. I have decided what to do, as you can see. This is a stitch that I did years ago, probably in the 70s, for a throw that I made out of odd balls of wool. I used to, when I passed a yarn shop or a craft shop, if there were any balls of wool that were in a discount bin, I would get 1 or 2 and then do a bit more to the rug. So it's a multicoloured rug, but somehow it really fits well into our bedroom the way it's set up now. I've only recently unpacked it because it was in storage for over 10 years, as you know, because we took a while to build our house and we were moving around during that time. So it's really lovely to use it again, and it's sitting on a trunk in our bedroom, and it's there for extra warmth if we need it. So I decided to use that stitch. I don't have the pattern book anymore. I think it was an old Montrico knitting and crochet magazine that used to come out regularly. It may still do, I don't know. And I had a look at it and worked out how to do it. So I'm using the 3 colours that I've spun. These are hand spun on my spinning wheel. And from left to right, it's alpaca, Corriedale, which is sheep, and merino, which of course is sheep. And I have different amounts of each of them, so I've had to think a little bit about how I'm going to approach changing the colours. And this is what I've decided to do. What I've decided is to do more rows of the darker grey, which is the alpaca, because I have more of it. So I've been doing 4 rows of that, and then 2 rows in between of the merino and the Corriedale. I did start off with 4 rows of the Corriedale, and I'm hoping that I can finish off with 4 rows of that as well. The stitch is really easy, and I'll just see if I can demonstrate it for you. To start it off, it's a group of 8. So to calculate the number of chain that I needed to do as a foundation row, I did multiple of 8 plus 2 stitches, and that made it all work out really well. So I did 12 lots of 8, which is 96, plus 2 stitches, which is 98, if you'd like to try that. So at the moment I'm doing the merino row, so I'm doing 2 rows of that, and I'll just show you how I do it so you can get an idea. This is a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook, because I didn't want it to be too dense, but I did want it to be, you know, reasonably robust. So I start the row with 3 chain, and that stands as 1 treble. So there's a treble below it from the previous row. Then I skip 1 chain and I do 4 trebles, counting those 3 chain, which are standing as a treble stitch. So 3 and 4, and the fourth one goes into that two chain gap. And I check it because I have made mistakes. That's 4 with the little gap here to start the row. Then I do 2 chain and another treble in that gap, and then continue until I have 4 trebles just in the top of each treble in the previous row. I really like the effect of this. It's kind of a chevron or a zigzag pattern. So there we go. There's 2 groups of 4. Now I've come to this spot, and what I've got to do is I've got to make sure that I keep the groups of 4, but that this lot tips into each other. So I miss the end of this group of 4 and the beginning of this group of 4. So treble, not in that one and not in that one, but in this one. And that way I get the reverse of the other gap. So that's like a triangle, and this is like an upside down triangle. Then I continue this row and in this little gap here. And it only takes a second to glance at it and make sure you've got 4. Then 2 chain, another one in that gap. And then you keep going until you have a group of 4 again. Now I've come to the upside down triangle, so I miss the end treble of this group of 4 and the beginning treble of this group of 4, and do it in the next one. And that way I keep the zigzag going, as you can see, and I just continue that until the end. So every row starts with 3 chain to stand as 1 treble to make a group of 4, 2 chain in the top of this triangle, 4 more trebles, and then you skip 1 at the end and 1 at the beginning of each group of 4 in the row below. And you just continue to do that until it's the length that you want. So I hope that's something you might like to try. You can do it in any size yarn and with any size hook. Somewhere still packed away, I have up to a size 10 or a 10.5 hook. So that would make a really lacy kind of look to it. I'll go for as long as I can with the amount of wool that I've got, and I'm hoping that I'll have enough left also to make maybe a fringe at each end, but we'll see. I'm very happy to let you know that I'm now able to ship to the US. It was only 2 weeks ago that I went in to mail a mail order to find out what it would cost and whether it was possible, because I had an online order to the US, which I was very grateful for and hoped that I could send. And it turned out that the Australia Post system had just opened up postage to the US. So that was about 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, there is a tariff, so I've had to raise my postage prices, and it works out at about 10% of what the value of the item is. If it's worth under $100 Australian, it doesn't attract a tariff. If it's over $100 Australian, it does attract a tariff. There was a bit of a grey area with the order because in American dollars, it was below 100. And in Australian dollars, because of the exchange rate, it was above 100. And of course, I had to pay the tariff because it was calculated in Australian dollars. But really, the main news is that I can now ship to the US. So if there's anything that you were thinking of ordering from gonerustic.com, you can now do so. As you know, I've recently entered some exhibitions, and I do that every year. And some of my artworks I've been packaging like this so that they are well protected, but also on the top it shows how the item can be displayed. I've done the same thing for my scroll, which is not finished, but it has its own box now. And I've left the name of it blank. And the reason for that is that I can't think of a name. I have some ideas about what it symbolises, but to find a name I haven't been very successful at so far. So I thought I would ask you if you would like to help me. Would you please suggest in the comments a possible name for my scroll? And if there's one that really stands out to me, I'll definitely give you credit for having suggested it. It also could perhaps lead me on a train of thought which will give me a word even if there isn't one in the comments that I think I could use. So I think it would be fun to do that. So if you could, please suggest a name in the comments. That would be wonderful. I'll just open the box. As I have mentioned before, I try to use recycled materials as much as possible in my artwork, but also in the packaging of the artworks. So this box is recycled. I generally use recycled paper in my printer as well, so I buy the packages that say that they're made from recycled paper, and then I save the bubble wrap also from other packaging and reuse it. As I mentioned, I've done a lot of stitching on the scroll over the past week. I had a break while I was doing the crochet, but after I did the coverlet stitching, I went on to this and worked pretty hard at it, and I really feel that it's heading in the right direction. I mentioned that I was changing my process, and I think I got as far as here with completing part of the scroll. The whole scroll is about 2.5 meters long. So instead of just doing a whole section and finishing that, I decided to continue with one thing at a time. So I continued with the cross stitch right to the end. And then after that, I continued with the running stitch around where I'd done the cross stitch right to the end. After that, I started to finish the circles. Now, most of the circles I started with just had the circular blanket stitch and running stitch around it before I added the other stitching. Then when I did the next circle, I thought, oh, I think that would look rather nice with some French knots. So I added some French knots. So I haven't done that with all the circles, just with some of them. I'll just see if I can find another one. This one I didn't because it didn't seem to need it. And I think I did do one where I put it around the blanket stitch. There I did. Just here, I did French knots around the blanket stitch. So where there was a space, I put them there if they needed it. I might add some more, I don't know. There's another circle. There are no French knots in that one. So I don't feel they all need them, but, you know, just here and there, maybe they could have the French knots. Once I'd done the circles, I started adding more found objects. So if you remember from last time, I put some clothes pegs, the broken bits of clothes pegs on here, and something from lingerie, which is I think from a slip strap, a squashed bottle cap. Then I started adding a few other things. So I think this is also from lingerie, and it just seemed to be the right colour. Then I also added some hair slides, which are called bobby pins in the US and Canada, and I think hair pins in the UK. There might be other names for them as well, but here they're called hair slides. That one I found on the road. That one I think I found in the house. And so now I've added, I think, all the found objects. Oh no, here's another one. This one made me stop and think because I think it's actually a baby bracelet, the kind that used to be put on the baby's wrist in hospital to identify them. It would have an initial or a name. When my children were born, I think we had beads on theirs, and I've saved them. So this is a rusty chain, which is possibly from a baby's wrist. And I'm just wondering if somebody lost it somewhere. It was just in my box of stuff. I really don't know where it came from. But it's got a little catch, a little sliding catch. And when it's closed, it's only very small, so about the size of a baby's wrist. So there's a story behind that for sure. So in trying to decide on a name for this, there are a few things maybe to take into consideration. We have the colours, which are a bit like the Australian outback or times of drought. We have the found objects, which hint at the fact that we discard things and we have an impact on our environment. There are things that hint at plants and birds. Maybe the undulating shapes might hint at water or running water. So I'll be interested to see what kind of names you can come up with for this scroll. In the meantime, I'll keep working on it. I don't think I'm too far from finishing it, so if all goes well, I'll be able to show you the finished item in the next video. I've had a lot of interest on Facebook and Instagram about the scroll, and you might like to know, if you haven't found out already, that I do an intuitive stitching online course, which is evergreen and available at any time that you want to do it for the life of the video. It's called Intuitive Stitching, as I said, and it's based on creating a scroll. I just thought that was a really lovely format to do some stitching by hand and to not stress about the outcome too much, and to work out ideas about the stitching as you go along, and allowing the process to show you what to do. So the Intuitive Stitching course encourages you to trust your own instincts, to follow what your materials and your hands are saying to you as you work, and not to have too much of a planned outcome. And if that's something that you'd like to do, this little trailer might encourage you to give it a go. I'm very, very grateful to my supporters on both YouTube and social media. On Facebook, I have a group called Gone Rustic VIPs, and this is a group that gives special consideration to those who support me either as annual members or as life members. I give rewards such as discounts on online workshops, a welcome gift of a piece of eco-printed fabric, and various other things which are listed on the page in my shop, which talks about joining the VIP group. I did have some difficulty a couple of weeks ago with one person who became a VIP and requested to and paid for it. The problem was that I took 1.5 days to actually send her the information and the link. There was an automatic confirmation from my website, from my shop, so that would have been confirmed immediately. But on my shop, I have a policy whereby orders are processed from between 3 to 5 days after ordering. There are a couple of reasons for this. One is that it takes at least 2 days before the payment appears in my bank account. Another is that when they are items that I need to post, I don't actually live in the town. I actually drive into the town a couple of times a week to do mail orders. And the third thing is that I don't have any staff. I do all the work myself, including the videos, the online shop, making all the products, doing everything associated with running a small business. So sometimes I can't do things immediately, and that's why I have this policy of orders being processed within 3 to 5 days. I couldn't get this across to the customer, so we just had to agree that maybe this wasn't for her, and we dealt with it accordingly. So I do ask, if you decide to become a VIP, and I would love it if you did, please do read through the whole description and the policy so that you know what to expect. I do want to make you feel special when you support me, and I do my best to do that. And I really thank everybody who has done this. I also have a Ko-fi support group, and this is slightly different, but I do also give the same perks to the Ko-fi group as I do to the Gone Rustic VIPs. With the Ko-fi group, you can join on a monthly basis and pay a monthly amount for a certain length of time, but you can also just do a one-off support payment. So it's entirely up to you. I don't pressure anybody to support me either on Ko-fi or as a Gone Rustic VIP. But if you think that you would benefit from this and you would like me to share a bit more with you than what I do with the general public, then it just might be for you. And I look forward to making contact with you and sharing things with you. I've mentioned a few times that sometimes I like to work in series, and I think these two artist journals or artist books are a series. It might only be a series of 2. At this stage, I feel that it is, but never say never. The first one I made was the Wetlands Journal, and I bound it with a Slipnot binding with beading on the ends, on the tails. I felt that it signified water droplets. And then when I've made the Woodlands Journal, I felt to do a similar thing. So I've done it in 2 colours again, like the other one, and added the little beads, a bit like water droplets or dew. But I also found when I was rummaging in my bead box a little owl charm. And I have shared this on Facebook and Instagram, and I was so pleased to find it because an owl lives in the woodlands, so it was very appropriate, I felt. The Slipknot binding, I've done the method as described by Lisbeth Degn in one of her tutorials, and I will add that in the description. And I love the way it looks a bit like a codex or a Coptic binding, but it's with single sheets instead of with signatures and sections. So if you want to learn how to do that, just follow the link that I'll add below and have a go. So the Woodlands Journal is now complete, and I'm so happy with it. People have asked me, can I do a flip through? And I think I will. I don't know that I've done one of the Wetlands Journal either. I'm not really sure. But I think this might be something for my Gone Rustic VIP supporters and Ko-fi supporters. So they will probably just be a flip through. I don't think I'll do any talking. I'll just do some pleasant music, and then you can just browse through these books. I'll let everybody know when I do this. I'll just try and slot it in between everything else that I need to do. But I think that should be quite enjoyable. And thank you so much for asking to have a look through the books. I'm so thrilled that you'd like to see what I've done. Thank you so much. If you're interested in learning a bit more about the process that I use when I do the collaging and stitching of the pages in these 2 journals, I did do a guest spot on the Book and Paper Arts channel. Kelly invited me to do a guest spot while she was away, and she's had a break from her channel, but she's just done a video to catch up with everyone and do an update on where she's at, and she's about to start doing some really interesting things, I think, on her channel again. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I'll put a link to the video that I made for her channel, and it explains the process that I use when I do the collaging of the pages, which you might be interested in. I was absolutely thrilled to receive another Red for Courage square in the mail. This beautiful square is from none other than Jerry Bellini. Now, Jerry has her own channel. We've got to know each other a little bit, even though we've not met face to face, and we have Zoomed together as well. And I really enjoy Jerry's channel and her stitching projects and what she calls her ya-ya. I think Kathryn calls it wittering and Jerry calls it ya-ya. I don't really know what I'm going to call my rambling. Maybe it's rambling. I don't know. But I just would like to say thank you so much to Jerry. I have mentioned it online already. She hasn't been well, so I really appreciate the fact that she's taken the time to make me a square for the Red for Courage scroll. She's included a yellow dot. Now, if you watch Jerry, you'll know that yellow is a favourite colour of hers and that she's had a yellow dot project. And I also contributed to that and really enjoyed it. So, you know, I would encourage you to check out her channel. She sent me a lovely note as well. And yes, just so appreciate your taking the time to do this, Jerry. It's just lovely. Thank you so much. And I should also say that this is number 238 in the Red for Courage project.